Hello, dear English learners, and welcome to today's podcast episode. I'm really excited to talk about a topic that many of us can relate to. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you can easily understand English, whether it's reading or listening, but when it comes to speaking, you freeze up? You know the words, you understand what's being said, but when you try to speak, the words just don't come out the way you want them to. If this sounds like you, don't worry. You're not alone. This is a common challenge that many English learners face. It can be frustrating, and sometimes it might even feel like you're not making any progress. But I want to tell you right now, understanding English is a huge achievement. It means you've already built a solid foundation. The next step is to turn that understanding into confident speaking. And the good news is, with the right approach, you can absolutely do this. In today's episode, we're going to explore why many learners understand English, but struggle to speak it. I'll share some insights into why this happens, and most importantly, I'll give you some simple, practical tips to help you improve your speaking skills. Whether you're learning English for work, travel, or simply to improve your communication, this podcast is for you. By the end of this episode, you'll feel more confident about speaking English, and you'll have a clear plan to make progress every day. So, if you've ever thought, I understand English, but I can't speak it, stay tuned. We're going to talk about how to turn that frustration into action and take your speaking skills to the next level. Personal story or real-life example. Let me share a story with you about a friend of mine, Sarah, who went through this exact challenge. Sarah was an amazing student. She had been studying English for many years and had a deep understanding of grammar, vocabulary, and reading comprehension. She could read books in English, watch movies without subtitles, and understand everything that was being said. But when it came to speaking, well, that's when things got tricky. I remember the first time Sarah and I went to a cafe together. She was excited about practicing her English, so I suggested that we order our coffee in English. She agreed, but when the moment came, she couldn't speak. She stood there, looking at the barista, but her mouth went dry, and the words didn't come out. She could hear the words in her head, but she couldn't make herself say them. I could tell she was frustrated, and I asked her, "What's going on? Why don't you just say it?" Sarah looked at me and said, "I know what I want to say. I understand everything you're saying, but when it's my turn to speak, I get nervous. I'm scared I'll make a mistake or that I won't sound good." This is a very common feeling among learners who have spent time studying English but haven't had much practice speaking. For Sarah, it wasn't that she didn't know how to speak. It was that she was afraid to make mistakes. She didn't want to sound wrong or unpolished. Her fear of speaking was holding her back, even though she had a great understanding of the language. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. I've been in Sarah's shoes. Maybe you've studied English for a long time, and you can understand everything. But when it's your turn to speak, you freeze. It can be so frustrating. You want to express yourself clearly, but you worry about how you sound. Maybe you're even worried about what others will think. I want to remind you, though, that these feelings are completely normal. You're not alone in this. In fact, I've talked to many learners who face the same issue, including some advanced students. They understand everything perfectly. but speaking feels like a mountain they can't climb. I've been there too, feeling like I could understand everything. But the minute I needed to say something, I felt stuck. For Sarah, it took time and a change in mindset to overcome her fear. One of the things that helped her was realizing that making mistakes is part of learning. Every time she made a mistake, she learned something new. She started practicing with me more, speaking in simple sentences, even when she wasn't sure if they were perfect. Slowly, she became more confident. Over time, Sarah started speaking English more often. She joined a speaking club where learners came together to practice. She began talking to strangers in English, even when she wasn't sure if her grammar was perfect. Her confidence grew, and she became better and better. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about practicing, making mistakes, and learning from them. Today, Sarah is one of the most confident English speakers I know. She travels around the world, speaks with people from all over, and has used English to build her career. Looking back, she says that the most important change she made was shifting her focus from being perfect to just speaking. The more she practiced, the more natural it became. She realized that speaking was about communication, not perfection. I share Sarah's story because it's not unusual to feel like you understand English but can't speak it. In fact, this is one of the most common challenges for English learners. But just like Sarah, you can overcome this challenge. It takes practice, patience, and a willingness to make mistakes. The more you practice, the more comfortable you will become. And one day, you'll find that speaking English becomes as easy as understanding it. Why does this happen? If you're someone who understands English but struggles to speak it, you may be wondering, why is this happening? It's a frustrating feeling because you've put in the work. You've learned the vocabulary, you've understood the grammar, and you can read and listen without much trouble. Yet, when it's time to speak, the words seem to get stuck, or you can't express yourself the way you want to. The truth is, this is a very common experience for language learners, and it happens for a few important reasons. Let's explore some of the main reasons why understanding English and speaking it don't always go hand in hand. 1. Lack of practice. One of the most significant reasons why many learners struggle to speak, even if they understand English, is simply the lack of practice. Speaking is a skill, just like any other, and it needs to be practiced regularly to improve. When we don't practice speaking, it's easy to get nervous and not feel confident when we actually need to use the language in real-life situations. Most learners spend a lot of time reading, listening, and studying grammar, which are all important skills, but they don't spend as much time speaking. Speaking requires us to produce words quickly and respond in real time. Unlike listening, where you can take your time to understand, speaking often requires us to think on the spot, which can feel overwhelming if we haven't had enough practice. The more we speak, the more comfortable and automatic it becomes. If you only practice speaking once in a while, you might find yourself freezing up when it's time to speak. But if you make speaking a daily habit, you will find that it becomes easier and more natural over time. 2. Fear of making mistakes. Another reason many learners struggle to speak, even though they understand English, is the fear of making mistakes. This fear is often what holds us back from practicing. We might worry that we'll make a grammatical error, mispronounce a word, or say something wrong that will embarrass us. But here's the thing. Making mistakes is part of the learning process. Every learner makes mistakes, and it's the mistakes that help us improve. When we try speaking and get things wrong, that's when we get the opportunity to learn and grow. Yet, many learners feel embarrassed about making mistakes.